you single and waiting for Mr. Right? Are you in a relationship but still not quite sure if he's the one? Are you married and sometimes wondering if you've made the right decision? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then this podcast is for you. I am your host, Sharon Tillman, and welcome to the He's Worth the Wait podcast. This podcast is to promote healthy, whole relationships and to educate you on how to produce the very best version of yourself so you can meet the very best version of the one who has been chosen for you. Go with me as I share my story, as I share my journey, as I share my truth and my testimony while inspiring, uplifting, and encouraging you to know that He is worth the wait. Let's talk. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of He's Worth the Wait podcast. I am your host, Sharon Tillman. I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Happy Friday. Happy October, right? So I feel like I say this every time I get on, but the time is like literally like going so fast. So we are already within the first week of October. And I feel like it's going to be a quick month, right? A quick month. We are at the river. Shout out to the river. Whoop, whoop. We are in preparation for convocation on next week, which I am super excited about. And no, this is not a advertisement, anything. I'm just talking about it. But we are in preparation for convocation next week. It starts on Wednesday and it goes through Sunday. And I have to say that I am overly excited, overly in expectation of what God is going to do, the move of God, just anticipating God to speak and to heal and to restore, all of the things, right? All of the things. So we are in preparation for that, and I'm so excited for that. And so just in thinking about that, I feel like by the time that's over, half the money is already gone, and boom, we're gonna be getting ready for November, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. So that was the point that I was making in talking about that. But tonight on this episode, I just want to talk a little bit about healing and the importance of healing, ing, and not just being healed, ed. And I'm talking more of a spiritual healing more so than a natural healing, right? So when we're thinking about a natural healing, God healing someone of cancer, or God healing someone's broken leg, God healing someone's element, then we can look at that as healed ED. If your leg was broken and God healed your leg, and once your leg is repaired, once your leg is restored, then you are healed, ED. Going through cancer, for those who have went through cancer and have, whether they've gotten something removed, or, if they had to lose a body part, or even if they just got the cancer in whatever the particular area was cut out, and then they go back for their next testing and their next biopsies and things of that nature, and the cancer is no longer there, then they are healed ED. Even in the proclaiming of the healing before the healing actually manifests, they will declare healed, ED. But when we're thinking of the spiritual healing, when we're thinking of God healing us from a broken heart, when God is healing us from some type of damage, when God is healing us from whether it be a divorce, whether it be the loss of a child, whether it be there's so many things, just bad relationships, right? Relationships can be man and woman, they can be a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friends. They can be any of the above, right? So when you're thinking of healing in that aspect, we're looking at it from a healing ing. God is healing me. Not to say that you are never fully healed. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I feel that with healing, we are constantly, it's like a journey, right? It's not like it's not any place where we're like get in the car and we arrive to. When you're going through healing of any sort, I feel like there will always be things that try to pull you back, that try to remind you of where you've been, that try to captivate you back into a place where you've been freed from, and you're constantly reminding yourself, you're constantly speaking the healing, even if you are being healed from a broken heart, right? And there are scars there, right? There's scars there. There are things that may not necessarily trigger, because when we associate trigger with trauma. And so we don't want to associate trigger and trauma together, right? We want to talk about the importance of not necessarily being triggered, but I'm sorry, I kind of lost my thought there, but we're not being triggered, right? We don't want to associate trigger and trauma together in that sense, but we want to talk from the standpoint of not necessarily putting trigger and trauma together, because that's not what we're here to do, right? But we're talking from the standpoint of at some point, those things that you've gone through, they're revisited, right? So let's use relationships, for example. If you're in a relationship with anybody, right? But we'll use friends. We'll use someone that you put your trust in, someone that you thought you could trust, and somehow or another you got betrayed, right? Although you go through the process of healing for that, there will be times when you can still feel that sore, right? It doesn't mean that you're not overcoming it. It doesn't mean that you're not going through the process of healing for that. It just means that there is still something that's still there that sometimes still remind you of exactly what it was that you went through. I can always speak for myself, in which I absolutely love to speak for myself. So when I think about divorce for me, and I think about how traumatic divorce is, right? I think I've talked about this before, how for me, divorce was like a death, right? Because in your mind, you don't think that, and divorce is different for everybody, right? But this is what I'll say, coming from the most authentic place that I know how to come from. You don't think that, especially if you don't feel like you're the cause of the divorce, right? If you don't feel like divorce is something that you went through because you did something wrong, or because you didn't not even necessarily to put the blame on anybody, but and a very intentional, a very accountable person says that I intentionally showed up in my marriage every single day because I wanted to see my marriage win, right? So if you have that mindset and you don't feel like you showed up every day and you did the very best that you knew how to do, you gave all that you knew how to give, then you would feel like going through a divorce, I'm going to be fine because I know that intentionally I did all that I could do. That was my thought process going into my divorce, right? I wasn't fully surrendering all that I felt, all of the emotions, all of the things that I was going through, or the things that were there. Let me say that. I wasn't acknowledging everything that was there within that moment. But I remember just like kind of wanting to skate over it in my mind because I felt like I showed up. So I don't feel whatever everybody else feels. But in retrospect, like in total, complete honesty, that's not accurate. Because whether you show up every day or not, you're going to feel the ripping apart of two people that were joined together. You're going to feel the ripping apart of someone that you were interlocked in, interconnected with for almost 2 decades of your life. You're going to feel the breaking down of a relationship that had not only been established for so long, but had gone through a lot of different things together, birthed a lot of different things together. You know, if you have kids that come out of your union. So it's all of these things, right? All of these things that you feel that you have to go through. So for me, when I was able to finally acknowledge what I really felt and not try to, I think a lot of times, and I heard this in my spirit earlier today, and God says a lot of times we conceal, but we don't heal. So when I say that, I mean that a lot of times, we will skate over a thing. We will put a Band-Aid over a thing. We will cover a thing, right? If we are experiencing rejection in our adulthood, I love to use things that I know that I've gone through, because at that point I'm no longer speaking from a place of maybe possible. So I'm speaking from a very authentic place of something that I've experienced. So I love to use things like that, right? So when I think about rejection, and I think about feeling rejected all of those years ago within my life, right? I remember as I grew older, as I started coming into the place of who I was, as I started, really maturing and really, learning to, love me and not care in the sense about what people thought or, who didn't accept me and things like that. I never went through the healing process of that particular situation, right? I just concealed it. I covered it. I was like, you know what? It's okay that you rejected me, because guess what? Nobody's rejecting me now. And I went on with my life, because this is what we do. We will find a way to go on with things, to just put a Band-Aid over things, go around things, skate over things. We will find a way to venture off away from it so that we don't have to deal with it. Because a lot of times, actually dealing with a thing, facing a thing, confronting a thing, it hurts. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. We are completely naked. We are completely vulnerable. And at that moment, we don't trust anything or anybody to really be that naked or vulnerable with, right? So I remember when I went through my divorce, and I remember how when I finally came to that place where, and I always talk about this one particular situation, it's like this thing will ring over and over and over in my head, probably for the rest of my life, because I remember this one particular situation that happened that was my very indication, like, Sharon, you're broken. Sharon, you're hurting. Sharon, you need help right now in this moment. So when that thing happened to me, I'll never forget. And I always talk about how I went to God and I cried and I prayed and I was angry and I was upset and I asked questions and I went to God in a way that y'all might not go to God in this way, but my relationship with him allows me to go to him and be completely sharing, be completely raw, just be completely me. And I remember going to him and just asking questions like, why, God? Why? And I remember in my coming into the place of allowing him to do the work, right? Because I had to get to that place where I wanted to be healed, right? So a lot of times we don't acknowledge a thing is bothering us. We don't acknowledge, like, when somebody walks in the room and you know you don't rock with that person, you don't really like that person, you don't really, and I know we can associate it with unforgiveness, right? We can associate it with unforgiveness. Say this particular person hurt you in some type of way, and every time they enter a space that you're in, your nose turn up, or you get this kinda in your mind. That is something that you need to acknowledge. That is something that you need to deal with. God, why do I feel like this every time they walk in the room? Like, okay, God, what is it that is making me feel this way towards them? I know what they did to me, but God, I asked for healing, or God, I forgave them, or maybe I thought I forgive them. Like, when we don't really acknowledge these things, when we don't really like get face to face with God about these things, then a lot of time we'll just ignore it, right? I know that because I've been there. Trust me. The girl has ignored a lot of things in her past. So we would just ignore that feeling instead of bringing it to God and allowing him to allow us to educate us, on exactly why that is happening to us in that moment. So I remember when I finally came to that place of wanting God to heal me, because I didn't want to be broken. I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to be mad. I didn't want my anger to turn into bitterness. I didn't want my bitterness to corrupt me. These are the things that you've got to acknowledge for yourself. These are the things that you've got to be like, okay, I know that this can go left. I understand that if I don't get this right, I could really suffer from this thing, right? So when we get to that place of really wanting God to heal us, then I promise you, God will really start to heal the entire us. So I remember there was so much healing that transpired inside of me when I went through my divorce, and I was ready for God to heal me. And it wasn't just from my divorce, right? It wasn't just from that. I can remember when God was taking me back years of that little girl who was rejected. I remember when God took me back to Sharon at a young age, when she was abandoned or when she felt abandoned, and how the rejection in my divorce and the abandonment in my divorce, it was all connected, right? It was connected. Like the feeling, it wasn't just the divorce for me. It was reminding me of those places in my life that I concealed, but I never healed. It was bringing me back to those places in my life that I kind of just maneuvered around. Like I pretended like, okay, that was the young Sharon. I'm no longer there anymore. So like now I've moved on with my life, and like I don't feel that way no more, and so I'm good. But the reality is we're not, and those things will come back to us at a later time, and a lot of times they'll hit us harder because we're refusing to deal. So in that process of like allowing God to really heal me, allowing God to really heal my heart, allowing God to really have his way in my life, he took me back to those places where healing did not exist for me. Sharon, you were never healed from this. You concealed this. You were never healed from this. You just put a band-aid on it. Oh, did you think that if you just went the other way, did you think that just because, and I use rejection for an example, but I was rejected when I was younger. So that was something that I struggled with. I struggled with feeling rejected. I struggled with the feeling of people not wanting me. And I didn't know why to the extent that I did. So I remember, and I talk about this a lot, I remember growing up and I would try so hard to fit into places that I knew that I didn't have any business fitting in. I would try so hard to find myself in rooms and in spaces with people and in relationship with people that I know that I had no business in relationship with, but because I was trying so hard to fit into places because I didn't like the feeling of rejection. When I feel like I finally found my place, then I was like, okay, then I'm no longer rejected. I'm good. But the reality is, it was always going to sit down on the inside of me until I was able to really confront that thing, until I was able to really allow God to heal me from that. So that little girl that's on the inside of me that's crying out because she wants somebody to see her, she wants somebody to acknowledge her, she doesn't have to stand alone. Literally, she doesn't have to stand on the inside alone and still feeling abandoned and still feeling rejected and still feeling unqualified and still feeling like she's not enough. Because the healed Sharon can go and grab her hand and we can walk this thing out together. We can literally do life together in that sense, to know that you don't have to suffer there anymore. It's okay. There's safety here for you. I got you. I got you. I'm going to protect you. And see, until we get to that place where we really allow God to heal us, until we get to that place where we're able to acknowledge the things that we're really dealing with, acknowledge the things that we're really experiencing, acknowledge the things that we're really going through, being completely honest with ourselves. It's not even about being honest with God. Why do we need to be honest with God? Because he already knows. It's about first being honest with ourselves. Because when we're honest with ourselves, we have no problem taking it to God and being like, okay, God, this is a thing inside of me and I can't explain it. I don't know why I feel this. I don't know why I'm experiencing this. I don't know why this is happening to me. I remember when listen, I'm telling you, when you allow God to do a thing, he will do it all, right? There is no half stepping with him. There is no do a part, leave a part, do a part. If you submit your whole self to him for healing, I promise you, he'll do it. So I remember when, even through this process, I understood how much I struggled with unforgiveness. I'm so transparent, y'all. I have no problem saying that these were areas in my life where I struggled. Listen, for the people who know me, they will tell you the girl was on a whole struggle bus, okay? But you couldn't tell me at that time that it was a struggle. Me walking around here, and I used to say it so proudly, right? I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna lie on this podcast tonight. I would say it so proudly. If you do me wrong, I have the ability to make you feel like you don't even exist in my life. I have the ability to make you feel like we're not standing in the same room. And I would say it proudly because in my mind, it's no, because I'm protecting myself. No, you crossed the boundary. You crossed the line. You hurt me. So now I'm in protection mode. That's how I would clean it up within myself. No, I'm protecting myself because I can't trust you. But the reality was I wasn't protecting myself. I was holding on to unforgiveness and I was refusing to acknowledge that it was something that I was dealing with. I was refusing to acknowledge that this thing was hard for me. Like, God, this thing is hard for me. Excuse me. This thing is hard for me. I want to forgive her, but I don't know how. Why is this thing so hard for me? Why can't I do it? And it wasn't until I was able to actually acknowledge it unto him that God was able to come back to me and let me know exactly what it was. What it was for me. Sharon, this is why you struggle here. I want to release you from this. And I promise you, when I submitted, I thank you, Holy Ghost. I was on a walk. I'll never forget it. I remember it like it was yesterday because I remember my God encounters. I remember when God deals with me in a very special way. I am so intentional about my prayer time on my walk every day. Every single day is my time with God when I'm walking, every day. And I remember, when I was going through the situation. And I remember when I was praying about it, and I remember when God finally gave me that answer. I'm on a walk and I literally have to just stop. And I almost surrendered myself out there on that ground because it was like something pulled up out of me. It was like God pulled something up out of my belly that was just sitting there. And he allowed me to be free from something that had been keeping me bound for 37 years of my life. I want you guys to know that if you submit it to him and you allow him to do it, I promise you he'll do it. I promise you he will. But we've got to be real enough. We've got to be open enough. We've got to be honest enough to say, God, this is something that I am suffering with. This is something that I am struggling with. I need you, God. I need you to do this thing for me. So it wasn't until that particular situation, it wasn't until my divorce that I was able to go to God for things that I concealed. Because in all honesty, it wasn't until my divorce that I realized that I wasn't healed. Because we will conceal a thing and we will walk around here like we are all good. And when things flare, when things trigger, when things come up, we will ignore. We won't acknowledge. We will ignore. We will pretend like we didn't see it. We'll pretend like it didn't happen. We will just go on like it was completely normal. We will make excuses about it like I used to do. Oh, no, I'm just protecting myself. We will justify why we are doing a thing instead of just bringing it to, like, submitting it to Christ. Instead of submitting it and saying, okay, I don't know what just happened there. I literally just turned my nose up when I saw her. I literally just frowned when I saw him. I don't know what just happened. But can we talk about it? Can you show me what it is that's causing me? Because this is not who I want to be. I want to be completely authentic in you. So can you show me what that was? God, can you take me back to the place where that even began? Even if just with that person. I want you to know that healing is imperative. It is so imperative in our lives. It is so imperative in order for us to completely do what it is that God has assigned us to do. For us to completely be able to freely move according to God, according to his will, according to his word for your life. You've got to acknowledge those places that you don't understand. Acknowledge those places that you can't quite put your finger on. Acknowledge those places that you know deep down inside, I shouldn't have done that. I know that wasn't right. I know I shouldn't feel this way. I know this isn't a normal place. We have to stop concealing things, and we've got to be completely healed. We've got to allow God to take us through the processes of healing. We've got to allow God to take us through the process of healing and allow him to do the work. Listen, I remember a preacher said, I've never, God, I wish I could remember the message verbatim, but I can't. But I feel like it was something about being on a wheel. I can't remember what the title of the message was. My ex-mother-in-law preached this message years and years ago, and it was about being on the wheel. And it was like being on the wheel, and God is turning the wheel, and he's pruning you, he's breaking you, he's crushing you. All of the things that God needs to do in your life in order to fully get the glory, in order to fully use you the way that he desires to use you. I remember just being on the wheel, and you're on the wheel and you're turning and you're turning and you're turning. And then you step off the wheel, and then God is like, nope, you ain't ready yet. Get back on the wheel. Listen, that thing blessed my life. I wish I could remember the exact message, but I cannot. But it was such a blessing, because that message allows you to know that I love Pastor Mike Todd. Do you guys listen to Pastor Mike Todd? I love him. He has a book out called Damaged But Not Destroyed. And being on the wheel allows you to know that you may be damaged. You may have some things that don't look good. You may have some things that don't feel good. You may have some things that you might be like, okay, God, if these people know this about me, there's no way. I don't even want to speak it out loud because it's so bad. But can I just tell you, even though you may be damaged, you might have some damaging things in your life. You might have had a damaging past. You are not destroyed. And you are never too bad. You are never too low. You are never at a place where God can't use you, where God can't get the glory. You are never at a place where God can't use you and get the glory. Because even if you are damaged, you are not destroyed. Your life is not over. There is so much more to you. And just to go a step further, because Romans 8:28, I talk about this scripture all the time, because literally Romans 8:28 is one of my favorite scriptures in the whole entire Bible. I relate the scripture to my life so much, that all things work together for the good. Because a lot of times there are things that we will go through that are attached to where God is taking us. And in the moment of us going through the thing, we don't understand it. There is no way that the way that I'm feeling, the way that I'm being ridiculed, the way that I am being rejected, the way that I am being abandoned, the way that people are, there is no way that I'm struggling with unforgiveness and I'm struggling with, pornography, or whatever the thing is. There is no way that God can take it and work it for my good. The pruning and the crushing and all of the things that we have to go through, there's no way that God is going to take this pain and turn it into my purpose. There is no way that this pain is going to meet me on the other side of my purpose, and that God is going to be able to use me in the very thing that brought me pain. All of the years ago, no one could have ever convinced me that all of the things that I went through in my childhood would lead me to a place in which God is calling me to be. Nobody could have never told me that. All of the years that I struggled and I suffered, and all of the years that I was upset with God because I felt like God didn't like me. Or not necessarily upset with him, but strayed away from him because I felt like God was angry with me because of the things that he was allowing to happen, because of all of the struggles that I was experiencing, all of the things that I was going through that I couldn't explain, feeling unwanted, feeling rejected, feeling abandoned, feeling alone, unloved. All of the things that I was experiencing, no one could have ever convinced me that God would take the very thing that I sat in pain, with tears in my eyes, just woeing as me, that if I submitted it to God, he could use it for my purpose. Nobody could have ever convinced me that not feeling love here on this earth, but allowing God to love me would be the greatest love that I've ever felt in my whole entire life. No one could have ever convinced me. No one could have ever convinced me that God was going to take me through something in my marriage that ultimately would lead to divorce. No one could have ever convinced me. I promise you, if we allow God to do it, he will do it. But we've got to be willing to acknowledge this thing. We've got to be willing to say, hey, God, it doesn't feel good here. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel good here. And when we go through the process of healing and allowing God to heal us, allowing God to do the work, then we come out better. We're able to make better choices. Even in relationships, I always talk about jumping into relationships early on. Whenever you go through a divorce, when you go through a real serious relationship, whether it be you were married or if you was in a committed relationship and you got years in the game, like jumping out of one situation, jumping into another situation before you have the opportunity to sit with yourself, right? I am a firm believer that you really need time to sit with yourself, because the person that you were when you went into that relationship, the person that you were when you went into that marriage, whether it was 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, like whatever the number is, whatever person that you were when you went into that relationship is not the person that you are when you're exiting. You're not the same person. Whether you left intentionally, whether you were pushed out, whether you were kicked out, whether you left because you wanted to leave, whether you left because you knew you could do better, whatever that is, you need time to sit with yourself because you're not the same person. So it's so important for us to make sure that we take that time and sit with ourselves and allow God to heal us while we're in the process of sitting with ourselves, because it makes us better in our choosing for the next. It makes us wiser because we now can acknowledge who we are after God does the work inside of us. And I know this, right? Because when I came out of my divorce, it was easy to date. Right? I had never dated in my adult years. I had been with my ex-husband since I was like 15 years old. I had never dated in my adult years. I didn't know what it meant to date. I didn't know what that felt like. So it was easy for me to date. It was easy for me to go out here and I did. Okay? I did. I dated. Okay? Lots of people. Dated. Always going out. But it wasn't until I was able to really sit with myself, when God started to really do something on the inside of me, that I knew what I now needed. What do I need in my next relationship? See, it's so easy to get it twisted, right? Because we're coming out of relationships. We're coming out of these 10-year relationships, right? And we will automatically get with the person who provides something that the other person didn't provide. It doesn't mean that they're providing everything that we needed. It means that they are fulfilling a void in us at the time that we really needed filled. Whatever it was that we were lacking, whatever it was that we weren't getting, whatever it was that we were experiencing that we wanted more of, whatever that thing was, as long as they're fulfilling that, the other stuff doesn't even matter in this moment because they're giving us that. But we ignore everything else about the situation because we're so drawn to the one thing or the couple of things that we weren't getting. I'm telling you, listen to me. So it's so easy for us to jump out there and find somebody who fulfills those needs, but then there are other things that we're lacking. So then ultimately what we do is we start to find ourselves in the same situation with a different face. I used to always talk about how our brokenness will attract the brokenness in others, right? So we're broken in an area, or we're broken in especially in relationships and dating. It's always easy to tie this here. Even in friendships, cultivating friendships, broken people will attract broken people. And so you have to be careful, because if you mess around and get with a broken person and they like to see you broke, then neither one of you will never be able to get free. But even in relationships, you wonder why you keep attracting the same type of spirit. Because a lot of times we're not allowing God to do the work. We're not allowing God to take us through the process of healing before we jump into another relationship or before we jump into another situation. And so instead of us getting what we need or figuring out what it is that we need so that we can have that in our next relationship, we find ourselves just pulling on the things that we didn't have. Just like I said, filling that void, but then the other things are lacking. So ultimately, it's the same spirit. It's just attached to a different head. We have to be careful. This is why going through the process of healing is so imperative. This is why it's so important for us to make sure that we allow God to heal us, because we figure out things about ourselves. I promise you, it wasn't until I was able to really sit with Sharon and I was able to really allow God to do the work. And when God starts doing the work, just be prepared. Okay? I just want you to be prepared, because he don't play. Okay? But when God really starts to do the work on the inside of you, and if you submit your whole self to him and allow him to do the work, I promise you, he'll do it. And so I remember when God started really doing the work in me, and it was very, very uncomfortable. It didn't feel good at all. It was very uncomfortable, but it was life-changing. God was changing my life, changing the way I thought about things, changed the way I looked at a thing. He was changing my perception of situations. There were things that were happening in my life where I was just feeling attack after attack after attack after attack. And God was allowing me to know what this was connected to, why this was here, why I couldn't get comfortable in this place, why God had to take me through this. Where did I move from too early before my season was up, that God had to revisit me here on a different level because I wasn't ready to move, but I moved anyway. God will do that if you submit yourself to him. So I remember when God was doing that for me, and I remember just going through and really dating Sharon, right? So I know a lot of times we really do equate singleness with loneliness, but I promise you, they're two separate entities. They are not the same. Just because you are single, it doesn't make you lonely. It doesn't mean that you're alone and that you're lonely. And a lot of times, I think people get the perception of singleness equates loneliness. And so everybody feel like they need to be cuffed, or they need to be in covenant, or they need to be in relationship, or they need to be in situationship, or I just need somebody to talk to. So I'm just going to get on this dating app, or I'm just going to do this because I don't want to be bored, because we don't know how to sit in our singleness. So sitting in my singleness allowed me to date Sharon. It allowed me to learn those things about me in the place that I am now, in the place where God has pulled me to. It allowed me to learn me here. Because like I said, when I went into my relationship with my ex-husband, I was a child. I mean, I was a teenager, but ultimately I'm a child. And I went from that relationship, that childhood sweetheart relationship, into a full-grown marriage that ultimately lasted a decade and a half. or almost a decade and a half. So when I think about that, I never knew this new Sharon. I didn't know the Sharon who wasn't attached to the title wife. I didn't know the Sharon that wasn't attached to her ex-husband. I didn't know what Sharon wanted and needed. I know what Sharon desired in the union with her ex-husband. But what does Sharon need right now in her life? I didn't know that. So I was able to really date Sharon and to really learn how to enjoy me and to love on me. Because a lot of times we're looking for people to love on us, and we're looking for people to enjoy us, and we just want to be in the company of somebody else's because we feel so uncomfortable being in the company of ourselves. We don't want to be in the company of ourselves. We don't want to be by ourselves. We are always trying to avoid that. So it's always like, I gotta be with somebody. I gotta have somebody to talk to. I can't have a dry phone. I gotta at least be on an app. Like, I gotta be doing something. But a lot of times, we just need to sit with ourselves. And we need to learn the things about Sharon that we want to know about Sharon in this moment. We need to learn those things about ourselves. Insert your name there. I needed to learn about Sharon, but you need to learn about you. And you need to learn about you, whatever your name is. And that is the perfect opportunity for us to do that. Can I give you another nugget? Another opportunity in your singleness is to completely follow God, is to completely be submitted to Him. Listen, the relationship that you cultivate with God in your place of singleness matters. It matters. When going into your next relationship with whomever it is, whether you are seeking for marriage, whether you're just looking to be, in a relationship, if you're just looking for a friend or whatever the case may be, your relationship that you cultivate with God in your time of singleness matters. It absolutely matters. Being in that place where you can really follow God and you can really do what it is that God is calling you to do. You can hear God clearer on another level when you are in your place of singleness, submitted to Him. I promise you. And I can speak from both elements because I've been a wife. I've been married. I was married for almost 15 years, so I know what it feels like to be in covenant with God and to be in relationship with God while being a wife. But I also know what it is to be in covenant with God while being single. And allowing God to really prepare me, for not just my next in Him, but for my next husband, for who God is going to send into my life. I want you guys to know the importance of healing. I want you guys to know the importance of allowing God to move in your life and to do the work. We are not exempt from healing. It's just like if we fall and scrape our knee, right? We fall, we scrape our knee. If we get a cut, whatever it is, and we don't treat it, we leave it and we don't treat it, then it can become infected. Ultimately, it can become infected. So when we leave issues in the body that we refuse to deal with, that we refuse to treat, that we refuse to acknowledge or submit to God, then they can start to infect us, infect the body. Ultimately, it'll start to affect the body. If we get a burn and we automatically cover it, right? And we never allow it to be uncovered to breathe, then ultimately it can't heal. What I am saying is we've got to uncover these things to God so that He is able to heal us, to put us on the path for healing, to where we're so in tune with Him that we're able to acknowledge, okay, Lord, I know I've been on this healing path, but I still turn my nose up whenever He walked in the room. I need to get back on the wheel. Keep doing the work in me. Keep doing the work in me. And it's nothing. Listen, we're not perfect people. We are imperfect people living to live a perfected life for God. Can I tell you that the most authentic you, the most honest you, that's the you that gets God's attention. That's the you that God desires to use. That is the you that God can transform. Because when we pretend to be something that we're not, when we pretend to be healed and we're not healed, when we pretend to be okay and we're not okay, when we try to conceal areas in our life, or we try to pretend like things don't happen, we show up something completely different than who we are, then God can't heal us like that. Because we're not even being real with who we are. It's like who you're showing up to be is not who you really are. So God can't heal who you're showing up to be. He has to heal you. But you've got to acknowledge that so that He can do it. I just want you guys to know the importance of healing. And listen, it is something that we have to do. We all got to do it. We all have to do it. Listen, every single one of us, there is not one person exempt. I don't care from the pulpit to the pew, okay? It's something that we all have to go through. We've all got to be able and willing to do it. We have to do it. And God can get the ultimate glory out of our lives when we're able to fully submit it to Him and allow Him to do the work. Because I always think about me. I always use me. I never in my life would have thought that this little old girl from Waysboro, who went through all of the things that she went through, all of the things, could ever be in a place where God was using her in this capacity. And listen, you ain't seen the half of what He wants to do. I mean, like literally the half of what God wants to do. Or what He's gonna do. Because I'm a surrendered yes to God. I have to, listen, obedience is better than sacrifice. So I know what feels good and I know what's comfortable, but I also know that living outside of God's will is not anything that I ever desired to do. Or allowing Him to force me into something. I don't want to do that. With a surrendered yes, with my hands lifted in the air. So God is gonna do it as long as my obedience is better than my sacrifice. And it is. I would have never in my life thought that God had a plan and a purpose for me. Not me. Nobody could have ever convinced me. If I would have ever stayed in that place of listening to the broken people, and I say broken people because it takes a broken person to speak death, the opposite of life, on someone. For people to tell you that you're never going to be anything, that you're never going to amount to anything. For people to tell you that you're never going to make it anywhere. That's people speaking death on you. It takes a broken person to do that. If I would have listened to the broken people that surrounded me as I was a lost little girl, broken, abandoned, and rejected growing up, I would still be there. I would still be there. So I just want you to know, healing is important. Allow God to do it. Allow God to heal your heart. Allow God to heal you. Allow God to heal you. I do have a scripture, which I think is Psalms 103. I'm sorry, Psalms 147. Proverbs 17 and 22. A joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. God heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Allow God to heal you. Allow God to heal you. To heal every place in you. Every broken place in you, allow God to heal you. Every place in you that doesn't serve God, allow God to heal you. Every place in you that you know needs some healing, that needs some help, allow God to heal you. Allow God to do it. Allow God to do the work inside of you and to make you whole. Because ultimately, we want to live a whole life. Mind, body, soul, spirit. We want to live a whole life. Allow God to heal you and make you whole. Listen, I am Sharon Tillman. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the He's Worth the Wait podcast on tonight. I am so excited to listen. Every time I have to always mention the series that's coming. I'm so excited because, it's going to be a really good one. And so I am really, really excited to share with you guys on this next season about being a wife. I'm so excited to share about this, in this season. And God has been reconfirming some things even in me as I've been on this journey. So I'm really excited about just what God is going to do. So excited about what he's going to do. Listen, I want you guys to subscribe to this podcast. Do me a favor, send it to someone, send it to a loved one, send it to a friend, send it to a foe, send it to an enemy, send it to whoever you want to send it to. Just send it out to someone. Allow someone else to receive this healing message if this is what they need. You know the people who are in your life, and you know what they need. Allow someone to hear this. Allow this to be a blessing to someone else outside of just yourself. Thank you guys so much for always tuning in. Thank you guys so much for always listening. I really, really appreciate you. Leave reviews. If you leave reviews, then, it can, help me out a little bit with my just placement and things like that as well. But I just want God to orchestrate and move this thing however he sees fit. He gave me the vision. He told me to do it, and I'm doing it according to what he said. So I believe that whatever he desires to do from it, that is exactly what he's going to do. But I pray that this thing is blessing you. I pray that you're tuning in every week because you're getting something out of it, that it's really blessing you. It's really meeting you in the place where you are. And you're allowing God to really do the work, because that's ultimately what it's all about. I am just the vessel that God uses, but ultimately God wants to do the work in you. God wants you whole. He wants you better. And he's just using me, but ultimately God wants to do it for you. So allow him to do it. I love you guys for real. Thank you so much for tuning in to He's Worth the Wait podcast. I am your host, Sharon Tillman. Have an amazing day.